Okay, hi everyone. I hope you're all keeping well. My name is Rahul, one of the co-founders of Travel the Unknown. Thank you for joining us today on our talk on Cambodia. So we're taking you back to Southeast Asia again. It's sometimes overlooked for its better-known neighbor, Vietnam, but hopefully what you'll find after this presentation is that Cambodia is a beguiling country. There's mystical temples, lush forests, the Mekong Delta, of course, colonial towns, and a lot more. Very good food as well. And we're very pleased to have our colleague Charlotte Piffard join us from Cambodia, and she's going to take you on a journey through the country very shortly. I'm going to go over the usual housekeeping rules, so apologies for those of you who've probably seen this now a few times, but I have to go through them. So if you could please keep microphones muted at all times and the videos disabled, it'll just ensure that the quality of the presentation is as good as it can be. We will be doing the questions and answers at the end again. So if you do have any questions, if you could please use the chat function. And there on the screen, you can see ways to access that for desktop and laptop. You should see the button at the bottom of your screen. And if you're using a mobile device or a tablet, it's usually via the participants button. So after I give a brief introduction to Charlotte, I'll just go over the tours that we do in Cambodia very briefly, a few of the practicalities as well involved in traveling there, and then it'll be the question and answer session. So today's speaker is Charlotte Piffard, and she's led a very multinational life to date. She was born in Argentina to French parents. She then spent 15 years of her childhood traveling and growing up in Asia, and she's been living now and working in Cambodia for some years. She and her team in Phnom Penh, they've been helping us find unique experiences throughout the country. They help us curate our tours there, and Charlotte and the team obviously oversee the operations that we run there. So what I'll do now is I'm going to swap screens with Charlotte, and she's going to start the presentation. Okay, Charlotte, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Well, thank you all for joining the webinar and the presentation today. I'm very glad to introduce our beautiful country, Cambodia. So today's topic, we're going to go through, well, introduce our team, get an overview of Cambodia with highlighting all the main destinations where you can go and visit when you come and visit. I'll talk about 3 of our signature tours, our personality here in Cambodia, unique experiences, and I'll go through some top tips for Cambodia and hotels that we would recommend you to go. So that's our team. Most of us are based in Phnom Penh, the rest is in Siem Reap because a lot of you are arriving straight in Siem Reap. Yeah, Cambodian people are really lovely to work with. They're really laid back people, smiling a lot, and yeah, unfortunately the team is a little bit smaller nowadays, but let's hope we'll get back to this big team very soon. So this is Cambodia. As you can see, we're surrounded by 3 different countries, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Cambodia is part of what we call Indochina, which is Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. You can see that you have the Mekong going through the whole country, so up to Laos and then Myanmar, and then ending in Vietnam with the Delta. The 2 main ports of entries of Cambodia will be Phnom Penh, the capital, and Siem Reap. But we have a lot of our clients arriving directly in Siem Reap because, as you may know, and I will talk about a bit later, we have this big temple, Angkor Wat, which is located there. So unfortunately, Cambodia is not well known as a standalone destination, but that's what we're trying to change. You can easily come and travel for 2 or 3 weeks in Cambodia. So yeah. And yeah, regarding the weather, so you can travel to Cambodia, people will say from November to April, but we also suggest that you travel during monsoon season. I'll talk a little bit about it later. So regarding the highlights in Siem Reap, you have one of the main attraction, which is like a well-renowned attraction, Angkor Wat, which was the first Khmer capital built in the 12th century. And it was actually built as a Hindu temple at the beginning, but then throughout the years it has become a Buddhist temple, which makes it really interesting to visit because you have a mix of two different religions. And then around Angkor, as you can see, it's a big complex and park. You can visit tons of other temples. All of them are really different. Some of them are surrounded by the jungle, so it's really, really a beautiful site. In Siem Reap, you'll have also the chance to visit Kampong Kleng, which are villages built on stilt wooden houses on the edge of the river. So it's a totally different culture, let's say, because people are living from fishing. We're proposing an excursion where you can actually go and visit the houses or stay in the houses and enjoy the life on the river. I would suggest also going to the countryside, traveling by bike a lot. And in Siem Reap, there's something that you mustn't miss is the Far Circus. So it's an NGO that has created this circus to help underprivileged kids and young people to earn their living through arts. It's a really, really beautiful show. So one of our main signature tours in Siem Reap is the biking, cooking, and give no alms in the countryside. So you start with our guide that is actually the sister of the lady you're gonna cook with later on. So it's his own house. He grew up there his whole life. You're going by bike through some countryside, visiting local markets and getting some vegetables to cook during the lunch. Then you're in the house with them literally, so you can visit their beautiful wooden house. You have the chicken running around and you're having this lovely cooking time with the sister of your guide. And then after that, before noon, you're gonna go to the monastery where your guide actually spend a lot of time, because during the Khmer Rouge period, it was very difficult for every family to feed their children. So usually there was 1 or 2 children in the family going to grow up and get education at the monastery. So you're giving the offerings that are food that you've just cooked, and then you receive the alms, and then you're going back to the house and share the meal that you've prepared with the whole family. So Phnom Penh, which is the capital city, you have one of the main attractions, the Royal Palace, as you can see on the right top corner, where the king actually lives at the moment. We don't really see him often, but it's supposed to be in there. You also have the S21 Museum, which retrace the really tough history that Cambodia has been through during the Khmer Rouge period. It's a really emotional museum, I would say. You get out of there and you can properly feel like the heaviness of their history. And in Phnom Penh, you'll go and see a beautiful show, which is called the Cambodia Living Art, which is also an NGO helping as well underprivileged people to earn their living through arts, dance mostly here. But what they're doing is that they're also the one running the NGO. So they're trying to develop other kind of skills like selling, accounting, and things like that. Our signature experience in Phnom Penh is the Phnom Penh Living History Foodie Tour. So you start in the morning with a lovely little walk in the markets. You try some local delights, going for a coffee in the street. And then you'll go and visit some different, the French Quarter, we call it. So there's a lot of like French colonial buildings. This is the post office, for example, that you can see here in yellow. And then there's a national library, and you'll end up in Wat Phnom, So this little pagoda, which is kind of it's a temple, like religious monument, which is which gave the name to Phnom Penh, because the legend said that there was this woman coming down from the Mekong, and then she stopped in this land and she saw this little mount, went up there and find some gold, and then she decided to create Wat Phnom, and her name was Mrs. Pen. So Phnom Penh actually means the Mount Pen, the Mount of Mrs. Pen. When you go 3 hours and a half, 4 hours down from Phnom Penh to the coast, you have two different cities that are located 30 minutes from each other, Kep and Kampot. Kep is on the seaside, so it's really well known for its crab market and the crab that you can eat there, like freshly fished, really, really lovely. And then you can go to Kampot, which is really well known for their pepper plantation, and Bokor Mountain, as you can see here, where you'll have a beautiful view on all the coast around. The area is also well known for river activities like kayaking and things like that. Complete Kampot is our signature tour over there. So you start going to Kampong Track, where you can see those mountains. You're almost to the border with Vietnam, and it actually reminds us of some landscape that we can see in Vietnam. Those are old caves. So you start going there, and then you'll go through the salt plantation and getting the understanding of how their traditional way of getting the salt out in Cambodia. And the pepper plantation is actually really interesting because it's one of the most expensive pepper in the world. I know we sell it in berries for like super expensive, for like 100 grams. So yeah, really well known, the Kampot pepper. And you'll end up having a little tour of the town with also French colonial building. And then if you're going more to the north or northeast region, you're going up the Mekong, going towards Laos. You're gonna end up on a region with more mountains. So we call it Mondulkiri and Ratanakiri. There you can go for some hike, have a proper jungle experience. On the Mekong, in that part, really close to the Lao border, you'll find the Irrawaddy dolphin, which is dolphin species that you can find mainly in this part of the world. Going for a kayaking trip, and then you have this lovely little town called Kratie, with this island just in front of it called Koh Trong, which is really an authentic Cambodian life. So you can just go through the countryside, going to see all the fruits that they're growing there, and going for a little bike tour. In Koh Trong on the other side, so you're southwest, there's the Cardamom Mountains, beautiful area, way less touristy, so people are not really used to go there, but we're really yeah, pushing to discover this region, which is absolutely stunning. You have mangroves, you can go through the mountains, and you have this lovely little lodge called Cardamom Tented Camp, where you're totally cut from any digital device or whatever. There's no Wi-Fi, and we have we have a cooperation with Wildlife Alliance. So you go through the jungle with the rangers of Wildlife Alliance, discovering the flora and fauna of the area. And what people don't know is that instead of going to Thailand to have beautiful beaches, here in Cambodia we have Korong and Korong Samluem, which are absolutely stunning places, way less touristy than the Thailand one. So we really recommend finishing your holiday with like 3-4 days in the islands. The personality that I'm going to introduce here in Cambodia is Mr. Chanaret, so we call him Ret. He's handicapped now because he stepped on a landmine when he was younger. And he's the one who started in 1995 the Ban the Landmines campaign, So at the beginning, it was a petition who was first signed by the king here in Cambodia, and then it became a huge campaign. Today, I think nowadays there's like 195 countries that have signed the treaty, and he's the person who received in 1997 in Oslo the Nobel Peace Prize for the abandonment campaigns. Our unique experiences, I would recommend, especially if you're coming and visiting as a group, a dinner at Tim's gallery. So Tim is a Cambodian artist, and this is actually his house. It's absolutely stunning. You enter in there and you can visit and walk everywhere for like an hour or two, and you never stop discovering little details there. He keep on growing his house and building new places just because he has thousands of ideas and stuff that he wants to do. It's really interesting because you're going through different culture of Cambodia depending on which room you are in. So yeah, this is a lovely evening you can get. Another unique experience that is taking place in Phnom Penh is with Chef Nak. So she's a woman chef, actually quite well known, and she's been traveling through the US to promote what she's doing. She's trying to, so during the Khmer Rouge, what happened in Cambodia is that a lot of people died, of course, but a lot of recipes from old people has totally disappeared. So everyone knows Thai cuisine or Viet cuisine, but actually Cambodian cuisine is also very rich, and there's a lot to discover. So she's really trying to promote this through different dishes, and you go directly to her place, having a lovely time in her garden. You can go to the market with her, having a cooking class, and then end up having the dinner, or simply just having the dinner at her place. My top tips for traveling in Cambodia. First one, traveling in monsoon. So it's actually the monsoon season right now. Clear blue sky outside. The thing is that Cambodia is protected by Vietnam, so we actually don't get that much of like strong storms and rain. Of course we do, but like in the rainy season, we have rain every 3 days for like 2 or 3 hours, which is and the rest of the time it's just a clear blue sky, so it's absolutely no problem to come visit. Plus, even if it's raining, it's still 30 degrees outside, so not really a problem. My other tip would be to travel in Cambodia by bike, wherever you are, Battambang, Siem Reap, in the north, in the villages, in Phnom Penh. There's so many little treasures to discover by bike, and people are so welcoming and smiling all the time. And it's so easy to just stop in front of a house and they'll be like, oh, just coming, and or offering a tea. Yeah, I think that's the best way to discover Cambodia. Don't forget to book a sunset in Phnom Penh. I really love it. I think it's a beautiful little escape for an hour or two of the buzzing city. Plus the sunsets on the, well, behind the city, so you can have all the skyline. It's really a lovely moment, and you're on the magic Mekong River. I would say travel, it's a really good country to travel with all your family, like intergenerational travel. So on the two pictures you can see, this is my family who came during Christmas. So my grandma was there, my sister with her kids, and then other sister, friend, partner. And there's always something to do. Even if my grandma couldn't go and bicycle, there was other activities that she could do. And it's really easy regarding transport and things like this to move around, so I would definitely recommend that. And as a little top up to end up your holidays, go for photo shoot, like a kitschy photo shoot. It's really, you're having a funny time because you can dress up in this traditional Khmer clothes, and they're just adding funny backgrounds like the one Rahul has today. Like temples behind, so yeah, it's a nice little souvenir to take back with you. Regarding the hotels in Siem Reap, I would recommend Pumbaiton, which has been built in rice fields. It's absolutely beautiful, 5-star hotel, amazing service. And it's where Angelina Jolie, when she came to shoot Tomb Raider, stayed with all the team for 3 months as a little story, extra story. In Songsa Island, so Songsa actually means sweetheart. It's a private island, not far from Korong and Korong Sanwam. It's in the same area. I mean, I think the pictures are just talking for themselves. It's a beautiful, same 5-star private island, amazing service, amazing food, and beautiful view. And then to finish, I would also recommend to discover Cambodia in a different way on a cruise. So the Heritage Line cruise is proposing the boat, the Jahan, which can go, depending on the season and the level of the water, from Siem Reap to Phnom Penh or from Phnom Penh to Vietnam. Yeah, it's just a different way to visit Cambodia. You're floating along the river and discovering the edge of the Mekong. Yeah, much recommended. And that's it for me today. So I'll give the mic to Rahul. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Charlotte. And I will just quickly bring up my slides here. Yeah, so I just wanted to go through just some of the tours that we do in Cambodia. Obviously, Charlotte kind of went in a little bit of detail to give you a little bit of a flavor of what's possible to see and do there. So we organize group tours as well as private trips. And again, you know, group tours are usually, we used to have them up to 12, but now we've reduced the group size even further to 8 people. This would be great for a first-time trip, our Classic Cambodia tour. It's a 10-day trip. Starting in Phnom Penh, and obviously you can see the places mentioned there. And obviously, you know, a trip to Cambodia for the first-time visitor wouldn't be complete without a trip to Angkor Wat, of course. And again, we try to vary how you see Angkor Wat so that you're not, you know, in crowds of tourists, which obviously one wants to avoid nowadays. And again, there's more information on our website, and you can see the URL there. Our other trip in Cambodia is a hidden Cambodia trip, and as the name suggests, it's a really nice way to kind of get off the beaten track there. Again, you know, we can tailor tours as well, so combine some of the classic sites with some of the lesser seen sites. And again, this is a really nice trip. It gets a bit more in depth and into some of the places as well that Charlotte had touched on. And again, you know, if you have longer in the region, you know, we would certainly suggest combining Cambodia with its neighbors. So usually the trip does start in Cambodia, and then we work our way through the other countries as well, finishing in Vietnam. So that's a really nice trip. Again, it's a classic tour, so it does take in some of the key highlights, but again, we like to kind of mix it up there where we can. Hidden Indochina, again, it takes in all 3 countries. The focus very much is to kind of explore, again, the places that are a bit more remote, maybe, you know, rural countryside, some tribal areas, etc. It's a fantastic trip, and we run kind of group dates for that as well. Okay, and then some of the practicalities in terms of traveling to Cambodia. Time difference, it's GMT +7. There are no direct flights from Europe, the US, or Australia. So usually one tends to fly via Singapore, Bangkok. Qatar Airways also has flights via Doha. So those would be the usual ways to get to Cambodia. At the moment, as you can understand, with the COVID situation, visas on arrival and e-visas have been currently suspended. Of course, you know, once the situation kind of settles down a bit, we'll be able to kind of give more information and an update on that. Regarding currency, it's actually the US dollar is the most common currency in the country, and there are ATMs there as well, should you need to withdraw that. And Charlotte had mentioned as well that November to April is typically the best time to travel. And again, you know, during the monsoon time is also a good time. It's not normally a conventional time for people to go, but the fact that, again, some of the sites will see fewer people, and just because the bursts of rain are quite short, it's probably actually quite a nice time to travel as well during the monsoon time. All right, I will just now open the floor up to questions and answers. So I've already seen a few questions come up on the chat. So Charlotte, I'm just unmuting you if that's okay. Okay, one of the questions, or one of the many questions I've got is, what is road transport like in Cambodia?
I mean, for the main roads, it's they're quite easy. Of course, there's usually like only one-way road, so there's a little bit of traffic. But let's say, for example, from Phnom Penh to Kampot, you'll have 200 kilometers. It will take 3 hours and a half. It's a bit longer than what we're used to, but the condition of the roads are good.
Okay, and you kind of showed some slides with some of the hills, etc. Are there good walking options in Cambodia if someone wants to do, I don't know, a day hiking or even a few days? Are those options available in Cambodia?
Yeah, of course, you can go hiking either in Mondulkiri, in Ratanakiri. You have like really nice jungle walk, hiking and experience. You can actually sleep in the jungle if you're looking for like a hammock experience. The place where you can also go hiking, it's the Cardamom Mountains, the one that I introduced at the end.
Okay, great. And I mean, there was a picture, I think it was of Irrawaddy dolphin, right, that you'd showed earlier?
Yeah.
There was, just want to clarify that. In terms of other wildlife, I mean, I know maybe Cambodia is not the obvious destination for wildlife trips. I mean, what is it like for anyone interested in that?
You can go and see the elephants in Mondulkiri, which is also run by an NGO. People come to Cambodia to come and watch birds. There are like a huge amount of different birds, and mainly all around the Tonle Sap. So they're like a beautiful excursion to do around here. And then in the Cardamom Mountains, actually, there's still some wild elephant, but I've heard that if you see them, actually, it's not a good sign. Okay. You probably get pursued, or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, good. And obviously you touched on food quite a few times in the presentation. What is it like for vegetarians or vegans?
There's always option in Cambodia. I mean, as you know, everywhere in Asia, like the main dish is rice, and then you have different dish around there. But there's a lot of only vegetables option cooked in a very nice way. So for this, there's not a big problem for vegetarians.
Okay, great. And again, I mean, how safe is Cambodia to travel? I mean, do you have any kind of comments on that?
No, really no problem. I'd say the only little thing that we hear is in Phnom Penh, you never get your phone out of your pocket or your bag. This is the only thing that gets stolen. Otherwise, there's absolutely no problem. People are really nice. The country is really safe. Yeah, I would say no worries.
Good. And again, you talked at the end about kind of cruising on the Mekong. I mean, how long does one typically spend in Cambodia on the Mekong, would you say?
You can do, there's different options. You can do 3 or 4 days, or 5, 6 days, or 6, 7 days, depending on if you're staying only in Cambodia or if you're going down to Vietnam. You can actually mix a Cambodian part and then going down to Vietnam.
Okay, great. And in terms of language, I mean, how well is English spoken there?
I mean, it's not their first language. In Phnom Penh, you won't have too much trouble. In Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, actually, you won't have any trouble to communicate with people. In the countryside, a little bit more. People won't speak too much English, but this is also why you're accompanied by a guide who can also be there and translate what people are trying to say.
Right, great. And I mean, if someone had, I don't know, 2 weeks in Cambodia, you know, obviously we run trips there, you know, as well. So our Hidden Cambodia is 2 weeks. Are there any other parts of the country that you think, obviously we had a short, you know, time to talk about this, that people could also consider? Any place you didn't mention?
There's one that I didn't mention, is Battambang, but it's in our itineraries anyway.
Yeah. Can you explain where that is roughly on the map? Sorry, could you explain roughly where that is in Cambodia?
Yeah, Siem Reap is like 4 hours from Siem Reap going towards Thailand border. So just next to Bailin and Sisophon, you can see on the map. Yeah, beautiful little town. I think it's like kind of a Siem Reap, but like 10 years ago, it's not much developed. It's known for being an art city, which is a really, really nice place to see. There's a lot of like art galleries, and the countryside is also very beautiful.
And someone also asked kind of how long do you think someone needs to kind of explore Angkor Wat? Obviously, it's a huge site. I mean, what are your tips on visiting Angkor Wat?
I would recommend like the tickets is either 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. I would recommend getting 2 days. If you're really fond of temples, it obviously depends on people. Angkor Wat in itself, you'll need 2 or 3 hours during the day, and then the rest of the day you'll go and visit the other temples around. But there's a small tour and a big tour. Let's say the small tour includes the main temples, but the bigger tour that you can do on the second day is going more into the jungle and discovering like the temples that less people are going to, which is very interesting as well.
Okay. And how, I mean, again, you know, we obviously touched on the multi-country trip. How easy is it to kind of cross countries?
It's super easy to cross to Vietnam or Laos. People do it every single day. It takes like 2 hours maximum at the border, 1 hour, I would say. It's easier with Laos. It's less long with Laos. There's more people crossing to Vietnam. Otherwise, there's also a lot of flights that you can take either from Vientiane, from the south of Laos, or from Ho Chi Minh, which are 15 minutes flight, and then you arrive directly in Phnom Penh or Siem Reap.
Yeah, I guess usually for Angkor Wat, start the tours fairly early, would you say, or?
Sorry?
For Angkor Wat, you start the tours fairly early in the morning, or?
It's nice. It's lovely to go and see the sunrise. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Usually, there's a lot of people there. That's quite true, but still, it's a beautiful monument that you can visit early morning. So you can be there around 5 a.m. if you're going for the sunrise. Otherwise, yes, I would recommend going early because around 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. it's starting to become really hot. So usually like we stop tours during the afternoon.
Okay, perfect. I think that's it in terms of questions. Anything else, Charlotte? I mean, obviously you went through some top tips, you know, again, for the first time visitor. Any other recommendations or suggestions that you didn't touch on?
Yeah, I would just say, like, I'm happy to see people wanting to discover Cambodia and listening to this call. Obviously, it's a beautiful country that we sometimes tend to forget. Vietnam and Thailand are the big ones around here, but that's what's nice about like being the underdog of the region with Laos.
Sure. Great. All right, Charlotte. Well, thank you very, very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
I just want to go into just one other slide. And that is, yeah, again, just for the upcoming events that we have. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be doing a talk on Colombia. That will be back at the usual time of 6 p.m. UK time. And then 2 weeks later, it'll be kind of a historical journey kind of through some parts of northern India. And that's on 2nd of September. So we will be putting up details of those events on the events page. And also, if anyone's missed this this presentation or only joined part of the way through, we will be putting a recording of this presentation on the events page and on the Cambodia page on our website as well. So don't worry if you've missed some of this. All right, well, again, thanks again, Charlotte, for your time and everyone for listening. And we hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time. Okay, take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.